Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about viral stupidity, which we are all currently experiencing and we've all pretty much had our fill of. We are as about sick of this entire viral state of things as one can imagine. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm up to here with it. And I got this through the mail today. In the mail, can you see? Downing Street, right? So every single person in the UK today or tomorrow or yesterday or whatever got this bunch of little bits and pieces from the UK government, and it irritated me. I'll tell you why, but first let's watch this video, right? Because we all have heard about scientism, right? Something that atheists are too stupid to understand is that the human tendency to blindly follow is not exclusive to religion. Oh, you see it in religion. Oh, believe me, you see it in religion. I see it in my own church, where there are members in there who say they believe in this and this and that, but are so ignorant. It is unspeakably ignorant about why they believe anything they believe, right? People who are just raised that way, all the typical atheist objections, and are absolutely true. It happens in religion, it happens all over the world. It is not it's no mystery. This happens all over the place. But is it part of human nature, or is it just with is it something in human beings? Because as far as I've noticed, you abandon religion, you'll just accept another gospel. It's as simple as that. And I want to show you one of the priests of the scientism gospel talking here. Just check this guy out. It's I half want to slap him.
I suspect you have an opinion.
A point of view.
Of course he's got an opinion.
Okay.
I would say.
He's a media whore.
I'm broadly scientifically literate, but what I will say of this virus, I think we're in the middle of a massive experiment worldwide. And
where are the guinea pigs?
Maybe the experiment is, will people listen to scientists?
Check that self-satisfied. Oh man, I could slap this guy. Right, in the audience, brainless
in this
retards.
case, referring to medical professionals?
Medical
in
professionals.
this particular case?
Say Anthony Fauci over at Allergy and Infectious Disease.
So, this is just so typical of the scientific garbage that you see these days. Will people listen to scientists? Scientists... First of all, this is something you need to understand about science. Science, right? This cult of science. Science requires money, right, to be performed. The government has the monopoly on scientific research in every country on the planet. Government has the monopoly on scientific research. Why? Because they are, in the vast majority of cases, the ones who fund scientific research, right? You get private institutions and private sort of things here and there, but on the whole, scientific research is funded by the government. And if the government, and so science is only ever performed on something when the government, or it's some idiot government official who knows nothing or has an agenda or whatever the case might be, decides that something is worthy of money in order for there to be research done. So this idea that science is just this free inquiry, it's crap. Okay, it's absolute such utter garbage. It's unbelievable. And the corruption within the scientific community is so huge, right, that anyone who's been paying attention will know that with last year, from about 2017, 2018, there's what they called the reproducibility crisis, where basically this huge scandal came out where the scientific community suddenly realized that at least half of all papers across all fields, right, if you average it all out, all of the fields in science publication altogether, that 50% of all scientific papers could not be reproduced, or were just a lot of absolute garbage. And it was a massive thing that came out, and what was revealed was the bias in science, the corruption in science, and so on and so forth, right? Absolutely corrupt, absolutely biased. A lot of scientists, they're media whores these days. So you get these media whores like this Neil deGrasse Tyson idiot who just loves the media attentions all over the place, spouting crap and talking about government policy and stuff like that. And he has the audacity to say, I believe we're in an experiment to see whether people are going to listen to scientists. The reason why the world is currently on the edge of financial collapse, right, financial ruin, is because people are listening to scientists with an agenda, because the COVID virus the coronavirus is a bugger all virus. It's a pathetic little nothing of a virus, essentially, is what it is. It's a pathetic nothing of a virus, right? And the fact of the matter is that you have the government bringing out select bought and paid for scientists to give one opinion, right? But is it the overwhelming consensus of the scientific community that we should have this complete meltdown of society? No, it's not. There are many scientists out there who are saying, and so this is the kind of imbecility, right, that these evangelical atheists out there that you get, where they have this idiotic idea that science has some sort of a united voice on every subject. This is absolute garbage. This is absolute garbage, and the illusion is maintained through media, the national media, your mainstream media, and the government. Whenever there is an agenda, like this idiot global warming garbage that's now become climate change, right, morphed into climate change, and so that millions and billions and hundreds of thousands of millions can be pumped into special interests, and for the most part, is so that constantly inch forward into a globalist, technocratic, one world state. Is essentially where it's going. It's essentially where it's going, right? And it's one of those things that if you never believed that was the case before, right, you have to be blind, deaf, and dumb, or mentally disabled in some way in order to not see the ridiculous assault on civil liberties that is being excused as a result of those coronavirus issue at this particular moment. And it's just absolutely irritating. So here we got, for example, Downing Street, right? This in the mail literally today. I came home, it was through my letterbox. 5 things you can do to help your community. So basically, you can expect that this would have cost millions of pounds to produce this crap and put it through your door. Millions of pounds that could have been otherwise spent. They tell you sweet bugger all, nothing that we do not already know, first of all, right? Because you've done nothing but hear about it from every angle all over the place. And I'm so sick and tired of it. It's the reaction to the virus is what's going to make me sick. It's not, I mean, this would have cost millions of pounds to get one of these through the door of every single person in the United Kingdom. Millions of pounds that could have gone elsewhere, right? Absolute garbage. That money that could have been spent elsewhere, sort of thing. So why are they doing this, right? Why are they doing this? Complete and utter overreaction. Complete and utter. And I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, because those of you who are watching my channel, I am assuming are the type of people, considering my previous comment, already the type of people that, or you already know the statistics and stuff like that. You already know. I don't have to treat you like a bunch of idiots, even though the vast majority of people are behaving like a bunch of idiots. Where the death rate is been completely blown out of proportion. So, for example, let's say I get the coronavirus and I die in a car accident. Basically, they will say, oh, I died because of the coronavirus. That's literally how they're reporting this kind of stuff. So if you die from any reason, for any reason, right? But you happen to have the virus, they will say that you died from the coronavirus. That's literally what they're doing, right? Could get hit by an airplane or struck by lightning, but if you had the coronavirus, you died from corona. So the only about 12% of deaths that have been attributed to coronavirus have actually been because they were directly caused directly by the coronavirus. The vast majority of people that are dying with, not because of the coronavirus. Okay. A study in Oxford has determined that half the people have already. So let's go through some stuff here. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Let me rein it in because I'm annoyed. So I've got to rein it in because I'm so annoyed and so irritated. I'm blindingly irritated, right? Because another thing I see, right? It's just the stupidity is that I see, right? So I'm still going to work, by the way. I'm still going to work, and the reason being, right, because they kindly allow us to go to work, by the way, right? So I'm an engineer. I cannot work from home. Impossible, right? So they're allowing engineers and people like that to still go to work, right? So we're at work. And the other day I noticed that at lunchtime, right, I was sitting over there and everyone is suddenly spread out like 2 or 3 meters away from each other while having lunch. All right, yeah, fair enough. But then the rest of the day, they basically ignore this, right? If you see people behave without thinking, right, they basically ignore it for the rest of the day. And it's just so idiotic. And sort of like when you walk past because some of the guys have been like, are genuinely, I cannot stand cowardly men. If there's one thing I despise, it is cowardly, fearful, ignorant men. I cannot stand it. I cannot. It's where basically you walk past and you can see them sort of shuffling. It's like if you're that concerned, just go home, right? Just tuck your tail and go home, right? Then if you really that concerned, if you're so fearful and cowering in a corner there, right? That you've got to clutch at your pearls every time someone walks. If I hear someone exclaim 2 meters one more time, I'm going to punch them in the face, honestly, right? Because here's the thing. Let's go here, right? And I knew this before, right? And it's been proven right. May spread like an airborne aerosol like SARS. There we go, right? So, what does this mean? What does this mean? If the coronavirus can become airborne, which it can most likely, almost guaranteed is, right? Then 2 meters is not enough. 5 meters is not enough. 6 meters is not enough. Okay? Right? It's not enough. So this 2 meters, and these people have known this from the beginning, right? I guarantee they've known it from the beginning. 3 meters, 5, 10 meters is not enough if it goes in the aerosol, right? I'm gonna put this thing up for you to guys have a look-see at it. It can aerosolize. So 2 meters is completely idiotic and completely pointless, right? Then what else are they saying, right? What else are they saying? Where is it? Come on. Here we go. To help, irritating. Guardian, and so this is going out, right? To help stop coronavirus, everyone should be wearing face masks, and so on and so forth. I've got a friend in Thailand who's currently living, no, not in Thailand, in Vietnam. You get fined if you go outdoors without a face mask on. If you go outdoors without a face mask, you get fined. Okay? And so everyone's touting this face mask nonsense. Okay? So here we go, right? Face mask, right? These N75 face masks, right? But here's the problem. N95s, right? Here's the 95s. Removes 95% of all particles that are at least 0.3 microns in diameter. All right? The virus is smaller than that. 0.3 microns. So even the 100, the N100, which is the highest degree of safety, 99.97% of all particles that are 0.3 microns or larger. Right? The virus is anything between 0.1 and 0.4 microns. Microns. So this is you can otherwise call it a nanometer. All right. So it won't stop. The N95 will not stop the virus. Okay, it will not stop the virus. So what will it do? What will the mask do? So it's not going to stop the virus, so the virus can still come in. Okay, the virus can still come in. Now what do? Between your face and the mask, you have a pocket of air, nice and moist because of your breath. What are they going to do in that little pocket of air over there? First of all, the vast majority of people have got no clue how to put on the mask properly. First of all, right? They're going to touch their faces, they're to adjust and do all kinds of things. Got no clue how to put them on. First of all, right? Second of all, the bloody thing isn't even effective. So, for example, me, I've got a beard. If I put this mask on, right? If I put this mask on, right? And I've got a beard, it won't work. It won't work because where the mask sits, the virus can come in through all the other gaps. So even if it could filter out the virus, because most people won't put it on properly, will get in through all the gaps all over the place and stuff like that. It's pointless, right? But who's making money, do you think, off this, right? And the money being wasted on dispatching these things all over the place is unbelievable, and it becomes then on your face becomes a breeding ground, right? A breeding ground for the virus, because most people are gonna have it. They're gonna put it on, they're gonna wear it. You think they're gonna throw it away? No, they're gonna wear it again the next day, and they're gonna wear it again the next day. What do you think you're doing to yourself, right? Because it's aerosolized. It would work to prevent the communication of the virus from sneezing, because the droplets are bigger than the size that it would stop. But generally speaking, because I guarantee you it will aerosolize, it won't stop it. It will not stop it. I don't care. It's not going to stop it. Right? First of all, it's completely ridiculous. The scaring, the fear-mongering, the stupidity. Right? Now, what's the worst things? Right, here we go. Even worse. Mass surveillance in Europe. Not only Europe, but the US, and so on and so forth. Right, mass surveillance. They're allowing people, about 10 countries now, including Israel, have decided, right, mass surveillance for everyone. Absolutely mass surveillance for everyone in the world. We're going to track you, and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to study what's going on in China, right? Totalitarian communist China, where they are allowed to track you. They have a social credit system. Social credit, everywhere you go, your facial recognition technology, they know where you are at all times. If you so much as fart in a different direction, they know about it. And they can restrict your access to everything, right? Part of this technology is being used to implement this tracking system for the coronavirus. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand something very, very clearly, right? And stop being an idiot about it. 9/11, all this terrorist attack, all this kind of nonsense. The laws that were passed infringed or denied basic human liberties, freedoms, etc., etc., right? So things like the Patriot Act. Those laws, once passed, they never go away. They never go away. What's happening now, ladies and gentlemen, is here to stay forever. Whatever civil freedoms and liberties, etc., etc., are eroded by law during this process, which will most likely last until the end of the year, if not 2 years, right? Sit tight, we're in for a long time, right? Whatever laws that are passed, whatever totalitarian laws are passed, it's done. It's here to stay. The world will not go back to normal. It will not go back to normal, okay? But because of the fear and the abject cowardice and stupidity and ignorance, right? Peace and safety. The government just has to say peace and safety, and everyone, oh, amen, the government is our savior, all right? How many times do we have to go through the same thing again, right? Even, what was that, the millennium, the 2012 imbecility that everyone believed the world was going to end, or that Christ was going to come, and all that mental imbecility. How many times, Y2K, the whole terrorist thing, weapons of mass destruction when there were nothing, how many lies, right? I did a video where I mentioned, it was called pedophilia, right? Manipulating the credulous, right? You guys need to go to my channel, go have a look for it, right? Where I basically showed how they use children, right? So let's take you here, right? There it is, that video there. That video there, right? Pedophilia, manipulating the credulous, Greta Thunberg, and this one over here, this girl's testimony led to a war. I forget now off the top of my head which war it was. Here's another girl, right? So they bring out children, right? They bring out children. Oh, we need to do this. How many wars were based on lies? Because for national security, for safety, for all this kind of stuff. How many millions have died unnecessarily because of this? How many freedoms and rights of other people have been gone down the toilet because of this kind of imbecility, right? And they're doing the same thing with coronavirus, because people they're now shoving oh, the youngest person to die of the coronavirus, let's have this sympathy and stuff like that. 90-something percent, 95% of all the people that are dying from coronavirus are over the age of 60. It's an old people's virus, and guess what? It is no different to the common flu, which to date has already killed about 120,000 people. To date, so if you take the same time that coronavirus started till now, common flu, we get it every year. Well, most people, unless you're a healthy individual, it's already killed 100 and something thousand people, right? On average, the flu kills anything from 200 to 600,000 people a year. Where's the panic and distress for those people? Where's the sympathy and stuff for those people, right? Now all of a sudden everyone cares that people are dying and stuff. People die all the time from the flu, right? The sheer imbecility, the hypocrisy, the narrow-mindedness, right? And they don't see that there's more behind this, more behind this nonsense. They're just corralling you, right? Are we going to get a totalitarian state? Yes, look here, right? What happened? Snitching on businesses, neighbors amid coronavirus shutdowns, right? This is exactly what happened in communist Russia, happens in communist China, in every communist country on the planet, where the government is completely idiotic, right? And your neighbor, the person living within your own home, will report you to the authorities to get you carted off. This is where the world is going, right? Christians have been expecting this for forever. I remember, I haven't been a Christian now. Even before I was a Christian, back in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, I was still in high school and stuff, and I got into conspiracies and stuff like that. And eventually I learned about biblical prophecy and stuff like that. And I remember telling my mates and stuff like that, we will not see the age of 30 or 40 years old before we see very, very, very serious totalitarian moves come in. And I was right. I was right. Here, boom. I've actually been having messages come in. Morgan, please watch this video. Please watch this video. Please watch that video. Can you tell me what you think? Can you tell me, is it true? By the way, we're sorry that we thought that you were an idiot, that you were some kind of a nutter, right? we can see that, yes, we remember when you said that this was going to happen. That this precise kind of thing was going to happen. All this totalitarian stuff, they always use some sort of a crisis, and then they take away your civil liberties because they're going to promise that by taking away your civil liberties, we are going to bring in peace and safety. And what does the Bible say? When they're calling peace, peace and safety, sudden destruction. All the idiots are going to be swept away because they don't realize what they're bringing in. And the kind of abject nonsense. I'm a member. So most of you have this kind of thing going on as well, where you in your church, you might have a WhatsApp group for the church and stuff like that. The stupidity that has been shared, the fear-mongering that has been shared. As Christians, we should know better. And the stupidity that has been shared on these things, the lies, the nonsense. No wonder atheists think we're a bunch of retards. Look at this. Right? The religious right's hostility to science is crippling our coronavirus. Of course, there's always some idiot atheists that have to go and say and take a shot at right. So, but no wonder, right? How can you expect atheists to not think that we're a bunch of morons, right? Look here, right? We're going to pass out anointed handkerchiefs to people who have a fear, who may have a sickness. And we believe that when those anointed handkerchiefs go, that healing virtue is going to go on them as well, right? So we have we're going to hand out holy handkerchiefs, right? And then we want to get upset when the atheists think we're a bunch of idiots. Of course. What do you expect? They're going to think that we're a bunch of retards, anti-scientific retards, right? Because, yes, we're going to fight the coronavirus with with a holy handkerchief. Oh, my goodness. But this is how it's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. At the end time, when the things start going, and we're getting there, we're getting towards the end time. We're getting there. Where this is how they're going to go after the religious people, and they're gonna. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. If you're a Christian, there's only one thing you should worry about. Only one thing you should worry about, because we know, right? Prophecy says it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket, right? Prophecy says it's gonna happen. Whether you like it or not, we can't stop it. Your only duty is to go and evangelize as many people as possible and convert and baptize as many people as possible. Baptize, right? None of this, I've been born again now because I'm going to church. No. Baptize, right? Baptize, okay? The evangelicals, the Americans are the worst, right? I'm born again. Have you been baptized? No. Well then, go get baptized. Otherwise, no. Right? Baptism. Okay? Anyway, I digress, right? And that's it, right? Now, as Christians, we are mandated to be good citizens, right? No matter how idiotic, no matter how unfair, no matter how stupid the government is, right? Christians are instructed to be good citizens. What does this mean? This means to obey the law. The only time that Christians are to practice civil disobedience is when the government requires us by law to disobey the commandments of God. That's the only time. Otherwise, we are meant, and if we have a problem with something, we are free to use the legal channels to fight things that we think are unjust and so on. So it's not like we stand back and sort of twiddle our thumbs, right? If there's things that we're concerned about and we want to fight against, then we must use legal channels, right? No, none of this rebellious rioting in the street rubbish, right? That is not the conduct of a Christian, okay? None of this rebellion and so on and so, this mass civil disobedience and stuff like that. You are to conduct yourself like a decent citizen of the state or the country that you are living in. That is your mandate from heaven, because the authorities are there because God allows them. Okay? The Bible's quite clear on that the civil authorities are there, allowed by God in order to maintain order. It's there's, you know, come on. I'm not going to treat you guys like you're idiots because you should know this stuff by now, right? They're there because God allows it. And we are to obey the civil powers only so far as the civil powers legally begin to, by law, force you to violate the commandments of God. And by commandments, I'm talking about the 10 commandments, right? Not this love your neighbor is the greatest of all commandments, garbage, right? That is a summary, right? Love the Lord of God and love your neighbor as yourself. That is a summary of the 10 commandments. The 10 commandments are still applicable today as they were ever, okay? So none of this antinomianism stupidity where the law no longer exists, okay? 10 commandments. And they are doing that because murder is legal, right? Abortion, right? Murder is legal and all these kinds of things, right? We're getting there. And it's going to come. It's going to come where Christians are going to be mandated to violate their conscience. So, for example, if you're a Christian doctor and you are being prevented by law, right, you are not allowed. So if you're a doctor and you're being forced to perform an abortion, at that point as a doctor, even if you lose your job, you must say, no, I'm not going to perform an abortion because the government is now requiring me to violate the law of God, right? And now we must look at something, right? We must look at another thing. So the government, the future, they're going to talk about how this is how they're going to persecute Christians. This anti-science is imbecility, right? It's because they're anti-science, they're anti-this and anti-that. They're going to come up with all things. They're very, very quick to blame Christians for stuff. Now here we need to look at something with microchips. Right? I'm microchipped and I have no regrets. Well, good for you, right? And Sweden, oh, the Swedes, bunch of idiots. The most progressive, most right? Now, we need to be very careful. The microchip is not the mark of the beast. Do you hear me? All right. Now, this is going to irritate a lot of people, right? The microchip is not the mark of the beast. The microchips, the social credit system, the surveillance, forbidding, because Revelation says they will not be allowed to buy or sell, right, unless they accept the mark of the beast or the number of his name and so on and so forth, right? These systems, right, surveillance, social credit system where they can publicly shame you for not conforming, and they are already doing that in China, by the way, where a photo of you will go up and look, this person is violating the empire's rules, okay? These are systems that will force you to break the commandments of God in order to be able to access your civil liberties. That is where the catch is. The microchips, etc., are not the mark of the beast. They are merely the means by which the beast mentality, the mark, will be enforced. So if we go into the Bible, right, again, I'm going to assume you people know the Bible. We know in the Bible, and we've got the Jews in experience, there is the seal of God, right? Does God have a seal? Yes, right? We have the seal of God and we have the mark of the beast. What is the seal of God? Right? Who knows? Right? The seal of God is the law, right? And we know, if you go into the Jewish literature, we know that the seal of God had to be bound on the hands and on the forehead. So what the ancient Jews used to do, and even Jews still today, they're like really hardcore ones, they used to write out the 10 commandments on like a little wooden plaque, and they would strap it to their wrists and they would hang it on their heads. Is this what God means? No. No, that's not what God meant. People are so stupid. What God means by the seal of God being on the hands and on the forehead, he means think accordingly and act accordingly. Okay? That's all it means. Think accordingly and act accordingly, right? So if the seal of God is in the hand and in the forehead, it means it has to be on the hand and the forehead, okay? Which means God is not interested that you act accordingly, but you don't believe it's right. And God is not interested that you believe that it is right, but you don't act accordingly. It's like this big issue with works and grace and faith and all that kind of stuff. Faith without works is pointless, right? So you've got faith, which means here you accept it, right? You accept it. But if you have no works, then your faith is pointless. It's bloody useless, right? But if you have works without faith, again, it's completely idiotic. It's pointless, right? So I'm going there, I'm doing good and all this kind of stuff. But if I have no faith, what does it profit me? Profits me absolutely nothing. The head, the forehead, and the hand is required in both places. Now, the mark of the beast is satisfied with either the head or the hand. The mark of the beast doesn't care. The beast doesn't care whether you behave accordingly because you're forced to, or whether you behave accordingly because you actually believe him. He doesn't care. As long as you do what he tells you, he doesn't care. So, if the seal of God is his commandments, then what would be the mark of the beast? Well, it would be the commandments of the law of the beast that would counterfeit the laws of God. That is, where God says, thou shalt not murder, the beast says, no, you're going to murder. You're going to kill innocent babies. Right? When God says, thou shalt not commit adultery, the beast is going to say, no, by all means. Right? Polyamory, homosexuality, no-fault divorce, etc., etc. Yes? Of course. Of course. When it says thou shalt not covet, when God says thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's good, your neighbor's whatever, right? What does the beast says? No, you should covet. You should covet. Social justice. I want what he's got, right? And he must give it to me because he's got more than he needs. Right? You need to read, is it Rerum Novarum, the Catholic little thing that says that you can supply the need. This is communism, right? You take, you can take because he's got and give it the redistribution of wealth, right? The government, the beast says, no. We can take from the rich and we can give to the poor, no problem, regardless of whether the rich guy actually worked for what he has, and the poor guy is just the useless bum who couldn't care less, right? And so on and so forth. When the Bible says, right, thou shalt not have no other gods before me, what does the beast say? The beast says, no, all gods are equal. And if you say that Jesus is more than everyone else, that's hate speech, yeah, right? That's hate speech. That's bigotry, right? So do we see, ladies and gentlemen, what the seal of God is and what the mark of the beast is? Most people, now how many people today do you think have already accepted the mark of the beast without even knowing it? Right? Because it's here. How many Christians have gone along with abortions? How many Christians have gone along with homosexual marriage? How many Christians have gone along with, yes, Jesus is one God of many and we must be ecumenical and all that kind of stuff, right? Do you not see the Pope running around saying that we were to the Islam, to the Imam of the Muslim Imam, yes, we worship the same God? Have you not heard him say that? Right? That's beast talk, ladies and gentlemen. That's beast talk. Right? And there's many laws. That's the whole social justice movement. The whole modern liberal swine pit of hell ideology. Now, the microchips, the social credit systems, etc., these are means by which they will force you to accept globalist ideology rather than God's law. So if you don't go along with globalist ideology, all of it, then you're going to be labeled a bigot, you're going to be labeled a hate speech, you're going to be labeled a terrorist, you're going to be labeled all kinds of things, and you will be prevented right, from being able to buy and sell. You will be prevented. So this social system, it's going to track people. This is the beginnings of it. It's going to track people. So if you have had the coronavirus or you've been around, they will be able to then prevent you from accessing public life, freedom of association, all of these kinds of things. We are going to get to the point, right? So for example, we've already experienced this, right? If your child doesn't have all these vaccines and all that kind of stuff, right? Does he get prevented from his education? Yes. Your child is not allowed to go to school unless he's had all his vaccines, etc., etc. Ladies and gentlemen, the exact same thing is coming for adults because of this coronavirus. The exact same thing is going to come now to adults, where unless you can prove that you have had your vaccines and that you're all clear and all clean and all nice and wonderful, and have gone with the globalist agenda, you will not be allowed to be socialized with others. You will not be able to access public services, etc., etc., etc. You are going to be removed, discriminated from society. That is what the technologies are there for. The technology itself is not the mark of the beast. It is merely how the beast enforces its ideology. Right? Now we need to understand, what is a beast? What is a beast? Right? We have to look at both Daniel and Revelation. We understand very, very clearly that a beast always represents an empire. An empire. And that's a key word, an empire. So we have the lion, right? If we go to Revelation, and there's stuff in Daniel as well. So with Daniel, you've got the statue with the head of gold, the chest of silver, the bronze waist, and then the legs of iron, and then the feet of iron and clay. So we know that the head was Babylon, the chest was Medo-Persia, right? So these are all empires, right? The waist, the waist of bronze, which was the Greek Empire, the legs of iron, which was the Roman Empire, and then the feet is a mixture of iron and clay, which means that the Roman system does not quite come to an end, but continues to exist all the way until the end of time. And it does not mix with iron and clay. And so basically there's various interpretations and stuff like that, where basically it is the secular system and the religious system don't quite mix, even though they're going to try to mix, which is what we're seeing in the world a lot. Right? And then the rock, which is Christ, comes down and hits the statue at its feet. Right? Not at the hips, or not at the chest, or not at whatever, because those a lot of people who believe in preterism believe that the rock are basically saying that the rock hits the hips, doesn't hit the hips, right? So they believe that the Antichrist was Antiochus Epiphanes or something like that of the Greek Empire. No, because that's the bronze section. The rock strikes the feet, not the hips. Okay, so immediately that gets rid of a whole bunch of prophetic interpretation. That's nonsense, right? So these are all empires, and then again we have this recapitulation in Revelation, where you have the lion with eagle's wings, right, which is Babylon. Then you have the bear with 3 ribs in its mouth. That was the Persians, that was Medo-Persian Empire. Then you have the leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings, which was the Greek Empire. And then you have the last beast, which is this majorly terrifying beast, right? Who's got a mixture, right, of things, but that basically represents Rome. Okay, is a beast of iron, right, essentially, right? And then later on in Revelation, we have a beast that comes out of the sea and a beast that comes out of the earth. Now, this is subject to many interpretations and stuff up there, but as for myself, as well as the people in my denomination, the beast out of the earth is the United States, and the beast out of the sea is the globalist empire of Europe, right? Is the empire of Europe. A lot of people think that America's got independence and all that kind of stuff. America was an experiment by the globalist elites. America is basically the continuation. The whole globalist agenda is nothing but a continuation, right, of the old English empire. That's all it is. your Royal Society people. We've all heard Royal Society, your Illuminists, your Freemasons, all that kind of stuff. All it is an extension, is a broadening of the old British Empire, right? And America was an experiment, was a liberal experiment, right? This idea that it was meant to be some Christian, nonsense, right? America was always destined to become exactly what it is today, and that is a cesspool, is basically become a false prophet, right? As it were, to basically become a false prophet. And now the beast out of the sea. So the reason why we say that is because in the Bible, the symbols, the typology, right, is that the ocean represents a multitude of nations and tongues. It's basically a multitude of people. So a beast out of the sea basically means a political system or a system of government that emerges out of a heavily populated area, and that is essentially is Europe, right? So you have, even today, we have the European Union, and this is basically the kind of the forms that this beast takes today, right? Back in the day, it used to be basically the Roman Catholic Church, which had this broad control, this imperial control over Europe, sort of thing. Nowadays, it's all one thing. It's all one thing. So, for example, Washington, D.C., the Vatican City, and the City of London, right, are all different hubs. It's like this beast is like a hydra. It's got 3 heads, right? So America is basically your military. It's how they force. It's all of the wars. America has been in non-stop conflict since forever, okay? And how it enforces. America is the power. So it basically the Bible says that the beast out of the earth will basically cause the whole world to bow down to the image of the first beast, which gave it power, which is Europe, right? The America is a product of European immigration, right? It was set up by Europeans, and just because they got their independence and stuff means nothing. This is stuff on the surface. So, for example, Napoleon Bonaparte, his nephew, right? So we know Napoleon was basically the French conqueror, right? His nephew founded one of, I think it was the FBI. Was it the FBI? Yeah, he founded the FBI, right? The nephew of Napoleon. I forget what his name is, right? Napoleon's nephew basically founded the FBI in the United States. And when you look behind the scenes at all the powerful, all the elites, they all come from European families, European royal lineages and all that kind of stuff. So it's, it's this even the Russia versus America, right? It's all rubbish. It's all complete rubbish. If you go back to the French Revolution had 2 people, the Jacobins and the Girondins. The Jacobins, basically, the ideology of the Jacobins can be seen in communism, and the ideology of the Girondins can be seen in the capitalist West. It's a dialectical tension, and it's all artificial, right? Because it was the capitalist West that basically built Russia. It's the capitalist West that basically built China. Okay? China, North Korea, these are all puppets of capitalist interests, of Western interests, and the on the surface conflicts that we see is garbage. It's absolute garbage. It's all part of the same globalist nonsense. And today, if you look at what's going on in China is basically so whilst there was an experiment in the US, there was also an experiment in Russia, and also, pardon me, an experiment in China. China today is basically the poster child for what they want the future to be like. Essentially, with your social credit systems, and because it's all already there. It's all already there in the Chinese market, right? The 5G was developed. All of these tracking things, all of it was developed in China, right? And first implemented in China. Right, and America was basically the center of liberal ideology. That's where that sprouted up. So different areas of the world serve as different pots in which to cook up all of the different elements, which will eventually be combined in one complete globalist system, right? So in the very final analysis, we have the beast. So a lot of people, they talk about the whore of Babylon that rides the beast. The whore that rides the beast. Okay, so a female, though a woman in the Bible, typologically speaking, is a church. Okay, so you have the pure woman and you have the whore, right? The prostitute. Okay, and so the pure woman is the church, is the pure church, is God's church, and the whore is an apostate church, right? An apostate religion. So when it says that a prostitute rides the beast, what does this mean? It means that the woman, that the church, there is an apostate church that is going to use the power of the state in order to enforce its spiritual will upon the entire world. And that church is the Antichrist system. Right? That church is the Antichrist system. The beast is only there to enforce, in a secular sense, is only there to enforce the will of the one that is riding him. So when you ride something, it means you've got control, right? The Bible's, and we know this, right? You ride a horse, who's the master? Is the one riding the horse, okay? So the church is riding the horse. One of the heads of the Hydra, where is it located? It's located at the Vatican. Right? Ultimately, a lot of people, they're looking at these things and they're like, where is this all going? Is it really, can it really just boil down to people wanting global domination because they're really narcissistic and greedy? No. We're against, it's a spiritual battle and the secular world is got its head so far up its own backside with the scientism and all this kind of stuff that they don't see what's going on. They've got no idea. They've got absolutely no idea, right? So the final beast in the final analysis basically has got teeth of iron and claws of bronze. So we see elements of all of the first. So if we look at the statue where it was iron and bronze and silver and all that kind of stuff, we see in the final beast that the final beast has got the same elements. It's a composite beast, essentially, right? Teeth of iron and claws of brass and all these kinds of things. And so nowadays, the globalist ideology, right? The globalist ideology. So, for example, the legal system is still Roman. The spiritual system is still Roman, by the way, right? The Roman Catholic Church has taken on, especially the pontiff. The pontiff has taken the title of the Roman emperors upon himself, right? That lineage remains, right? The philosophy is Greek, right? I'm a Protestant, and so I have to acknowledge this sort of thing. Most Protestants and Catholics, right? Their faith is heavily based on Greek philosophy, right? Thomas Aquinas, Saint Augustine, Origen, and so on and so forth. All of the heresies, all of the stupidity that you believe. Evolution. Evolution is Greek philosophy, right? Evolution's been around forever, right? Long before Charles Darwin. Evolution is, and did the Catholic Church and most evangelical world now believe in evolution? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The science informs the religion, rather. You understand? You see where I'm going with this? And this is where it's all headed to, right? This is where it's all headed to. So, what is the solution? Well, the solution is there is no solution. The Bible's prophesied that it's going to happen. It's going to happen. The globalist system's going to... But are we left without recourse? No. The fact of the matter is you do what you can to evangelize. This is the final analysis. Because, it's coming. It's right here. So, for example, cashless society is already coming. Is already here, right? I mean, think about it. Even though we haven't gone completely cashless, right? If I think, when was the last time I carried cash in my wallet? I can't remember. I never carry cash in, but because I have my card, my debit card, my credit card, whatever it is, I just beep it whenever I need it, and I don't carry cash. I haven't carried cash on a regular basis for years now. Right? Just don't carry it. So we already more than halfway. We're a mostly cashless society already as it is, and everyone's freaking out. Oh, cashless society is coming. It is on its way. Purely cashless, right? So the US is already talking about the virtual dollar, right? A lot of people. Remember when Bitcoin and all this cryptocurrency stuff going on? That was just a trial run for global cashless society. That's all it was. That's all it was. You know, do you really think something like that would come out to benefit you, right? Come on, no ways. Everyone, yeah, you know, get away from the Bitcoin will give you freedom. Will give you freedom and from government tyranny and oversight. You just help them figure out how it's going to work. How a cashless society is going to work. That's all you did. That's all you did. That's the only thing Bitcoin and stuff was actually ultimately intended for, and they don't care if they make people rich. The costs are worth it. So that is where it is going to. The US is already talking about cashless society. The microchips are already here. All the technologies are already here. 5G is coming in. So 5G allows a much greater bandwidth in order for greater information flow for all the surveillance and all. A lot of people are speculating that 5G is designed to make you sick and all this kinds of stuff. I don't quite buy into that, partly because I'm an engineer and I understand the frequencies and stuff like that. I mean, we're constantly getting bombarded by high frequency all the time, higher than even 5G. I mean, light, ultraviolet, infrared, we're exposed to it all the time and we don't get sick, you know. But the fact of the matter is that if you do not have a good immune system, then anything will affect you, really. All right. You know, the current world today is fat, lazy, and unhealthy. And that's why we're just going to die left, right, and center, right? Could the 5G be killing people? Let's say, for argument's sake, yes, it is, right? There's only one reason it's killing people. It's because we're fat, lazy, and unhealthy, right? Because your body should be able to manage that 5G exposure. Especially because the higher the frequency of your bandwidth, right, the easier it is to block it, right? It's actually much easier to block high frequency than anything else, unless it's got ridiculously high energy, like your gamma rays and your X-rays. So basically, let's put it this way, right? Is it easy to block light? Yes. Right, and light is very it's in your nanometer. It's so high frequency, right? Whereas the 5G is 1 millimeter, is 1 millimeter bandwidth. It's very easy to block that, right? So even though it gives you a higher data transmission, the fact of the matter is that 5G will actually have less area of coverage because high frequency is easily scattered and easily interacts with objects. So even though it is, yes, it's high frequency, it's easily blocked by buildings, clothing, you know, all sorts of things. So it's actually got a much shorter range than 4G does. And so on and so forth. And in general, our bodies should be able, if you're fit and healthy, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to actually handle that high frequency without getting sick. There's no reason, right? Especially because we've been living so many years with just radio frequencies around us, just all over the place, all the time in modern society, that our bodies are used to. Our bodies adapt to these things. There's no reason, right? So that's the 5G over there, and I've heard some strange things, right? But man, you know, we often talk about it because Seventh-day Adventists are very interested in the end of days. We really believe. So, for example, when we're talking about that statue in David, right, in the book of Daniel, head of bronze, chest of silver, sort of torso or whatever, belt of bronze, legs of iron, feet of iron and clay. And then the rock at the end of times comes down and hits the rock at the feet, right? We are at that bottom position. We're at the feet of iron mixed with clay. That's where we are right now. Right now, today, that's where we are. We are literally in the final days. Okay? Now, the final days might go on for another 50 years, maybe another 100 years, maybe another 200 years, who knows? But we are right there at the end of that final bit of the feet. That's where we are. We are now currently, right now, in the time of the very, very final beast that rises out of the ocean, that is a conglomerate of everything, that whore that rides the beast. We are in those days right now, right? And you can see it going on, this COVID-19 business. That's just another tragedy to excuse greater surveillance, the global technocracy. The technocracy is coming in to control you, to make you accept that which is unbiblical, that which is against the moral law of God. So now it's time to abandon this idea that the law of God is no more, and whatever the case might be, and to get back to that proper spirituality, right? Yeah, it's just crazy, and people running around with strange theories and stuff. I'm getting all sorts of things, and Christians especially have acted so ignorantly that it makes, in many ways, it makes me ashamed of being a Christian, because of the how much ignorance. Because if you think about the fact, like, take the US for example, the vast majority of people in the US are Christians, identify themselves as Christians, which is like 80% of the population. And then you think about the fact that shelves are going empty in the shops, right? Most of the people, even in the UK, and the UK is quite an atheist society, but most of the people in the UK are religious. Shelves are empty. As soon as there's a panic, the Christianity goes right out the bloody window. And at a time where we should be doing the sort of certain spiritual disciplines, like fasting, for example. When was the last time you had a fast? Right? Have you ever had a fast? Now would be a good time to have a fast. Imagine if every single Christian said, right, we're going to do intermittent fasting. How much more food would be left on the shelves? Rather than hoarding so we can stuff our faces. Right? And by the way, if you were fasting, you'd have a better immune system. If you were fasting. Right? If you were fasting, you'd have a better immune system. By the way, if we paid attention to what the Bible says in Leviticus about clean and unclean animals, right? That's not arbitrary there. Right? About how many? Think about how many diseases we've had, how many flu viruses we've had, what they call zoonotic diseases, I believe is the term, right? Over the past few years, how many of them have come from unclean animals, right? The SARS and all that kind of stuff. Not only unclean animals, but unclean ways of dealing with the meat, right? If we followed the Levitical laws about clean and unclean and practiced what the Jews called kosher, a kosher way of handling meat, do you think that these pandemics would be going out there, spreading from animal to human the way they are? The SARS virus, the MERS virus, the swine flu, the bird flu, and now this corona that comes from, I don't know, a bat, or no one can figure, a bat or a pig or a snake or a pangolin or something. No one knows, because the Chinese just eat everything, don't they? If it walks, they'll eat it. Right? Dogs. Right? How much healthier we would be if we employed, right? Do you think God, and this is what pisses me off about Christians who want to be like, don't Jewadize. You mustn't Jewadize. Right? Do you think that God was being arbitrary? That he made those laws just for the Jews and that suddenly they're invalid because he was being arbitrary? Do you think pork is healthier to eat today than it's ever been before? Right? It's not a sin. right? If you want to go eat pork, well, go eat pork. You know, go and eat shellfish. Go and eat whatever you want. But you're going to pay because it's not good for you. Right? The meat industry, how is corrupt? The meat industry, how corrupt is it? And Seventh-day Adventists have been saying for almost 150 years now, one of these days the time is going to come where the meat is going to be intolerable to human health because of the amount of disease and just rubbish that's going to be contained within meat. Right? When Seventh-day Adventists, we're not saying let's be vegetarian because it's cool, because it's the latest fad. Seventh-day Adventists have been saying we should start going into vegetarianism proper. We've been saying this for 150 years because we've been saying one day that day is going to come where the meat is going to be intolerable for human health. And look, in the past 20 years, how many diseases just to come out of animals, and out of unclean animals, or even out of clean animals, but because they're mixed, right? Because people mix the pork and the chicken and the beef and the whatever, the snake and the bat and whatever else. How many of them come out of China? That's if they actually came out of China. That's if they weren't engineered. You know, that's another possibility. Designer things. And this is just the stupidity, because we think, and this is this liberal modern globalist mindset that we think we're too advanced, right? We're too clever to listen to what the Bible says and pay attention to what the Bible says. We think we're too clever. Oh no, it's fine. You don't worry about what the Bible says, clean and unclean. It was just ceremonial for the primitive Jews. Do you think the risk of disease is any less for us now than it was for the Jews? Just because we've got these fancy medicines and stuff like that? No. Not at all. We have a bit of an edge, yes, because we have sanitization and all these kinds of things, but even our antibiotics are causing a problem. Right? Our very technology is health technology is engineering viruses and bacteria that have become super duper that we can't kill them anymore. Right? Well, all we needed to do is have stewardship over our health. So that means eat properly, exercise, fast, meditate, all the spiritual disciplines that are laid out in the Bible. Right? Fast, meditate, right? And practice stewardship over your body. And then practice stewardship, proper stewardship over the animal kingdom. Look after it. Don't just eat anything, whatever the hell you want, just because whatever. Don't just eat anything. And if you don't have to eat it, don't eat it. Right? You kill if necessary. If we were doing that, do you think we'd be in a different situation? Most certainly. But no, we think we're too clever. Right? We're modern. You know, that was for the Jews and the primitive people out there running around in the desert. It doesn't apply to us because we're enlightened. Stupidity of the highest flipping order. I'm just so sick of it. I'm utterly, just so, and I see it even in my own church. Right? The people who pretend to believe this stuff and they eat whatever they want. And how many members of my own church are fat and unhealthy and whatever sort of thing. You know, take your diet into your own hand, right? Your health into your own hands, right? This business, trust the scientists. When scientific research, when 50% of it cannot be reproduced, science is basically no better than a coin flip, right? When the reproducibility crisis came out and revealed that science on average is only about as reliable as a coin flip, what does that tell you? Stop making gods out of scientists. Stop making gods out of your medical professionals, because they don't actually care about you. They want publicity, like this idiot Neil deGrasse Tyson and that idiot Bill Nye the Science Guy and all these other morons out there. They want nothing but publicity. They want to be renowned. They want to be recognized. They don't give a damn about you. Neither does the government give a damn about you. No one cares. right? Let me give you an example, right? My wife was having significant problems for a number of years, in fact. A number of years. And I kept saying, I think this is a thyroid issue. This looks like a thyroid issue. Get the thyroid tested, get diabetes tested, get this tested, that tested, nothing. NHS, National Health Service, the most useless thing ever. We don't use it anymore. We go private. I'll tell you the story. Right? NHS is useless. Socialized medicine is useless. The only time that socialized medicine is of any value whatsoever is if there is a big accident and there's required surgery, etc., etc. Now, I'm not bashing the individual nurses and doctors and stuff like that. They do the best they can. But their hands are tied by government stupidity. Okay, right? The individual workers are fantastic a lot of the time, right? Some of them are what you would expect from government institution, right? In fairness, a lot of them are exactly what you would expect. We've had out more than our fair share of incompetent morons out of the NHS who don't care, right? And you just have to look at the English newspapers and stuff, and there's constantly some story about incompetence in the NHS, right? Now all of a sudden during the coronavirus, everyone is, how wonderful, amen, wonderful people, right? Completely unprepared, by the way, right? Defunded over how long? Completely idiotic. How they use the NHS to lie about some of the things. I'm in favor of Brexit, but they lied with the NHS about things. Oh, we're gonna take the money, we're gonna give it to the NHS. Yeah, for the money to go evaporate into nothingness, basically. Because when you have socialized medicine, the individual person on the street doesn't give a damn about his health. Because he knows he can drink as much alcohol as he wants, eat as much McDonald's as he wants, and he can still get treated. Right? That's what socialized medicine does. Okay? It engenders mass irresponsibility. Right? So anyway, and went on, and eventually it got to the point where my wife was not even able to walk up a few stairs without being completely out of breath. That is a sign of heart failure. Eventually I got fed up. I got completely fed up. I said, enough of this garbage, right? I sent privately for blood test. I said, I want to test for X and Y and Z, right? Because I did the research. I know I'm not a dumb guy, right? I may be an idiot, but I'm not dumb, okay? I want to test for this and this and this and this and this and that, right? Now, the NHS, mind you, has already told us there's no thyroid problem, there's no nothing problem. You're perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. So I sent for the test privately, myself, through a laboratory, privately. I want to check this, I want you to check that, and I gave a list of about 5 or 6 things I wanted tested. Results came back. Guess what? Thyroid problem. Specifically something called Hashimoto's, which is basically when your immune system attacks your thyroid. Hashimoto's, if left untreated, can kill you. Hashimoto's disease, if left untreated, can kill you. Right? And that was the situation. And eventually, when I got these results back, I said to my wife, you're going to take these results, I'm going to pay for you to go to see a private GP. Why do I use a private GP? Because when I am paying a premium, I say what goes. Say, you will, here is the lab test. The same laboratory that you use for your laboratory tests, by the way, right? Here is the proof. I say, you will now give me what I want. And I already knew the medication and everything. I literally told the doctor, you are going to give me this medication now, because if my wife dies, I'm going to start suing people. Right? She's fine now. She's fine now. Took a while to adjust to the medication. Now she's fine. You cannot trust anyone else with your health. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. And these retards in the government, It's just fear-mongering. It's nonsense. You need to take responsibility for yourself, for your own health, for your own life, and you need to stop listening. I don't care whether you're Christian or whether you're atheist or whatever. Stop listening. Experts don't care. Experts do not care. We have this culture of the expert. The secular world has abandoned the priesthood. One priesthood for another priesthood. The priesthood of the expert. All hail the experts, the scientists. Never mind that they're as corrupt as any other priesthood that has ever come before them. Pull your head out of your backside and have a wake up. Right? Because otherwise you're going to find yourself in the ground thinking, oh, what happened? Right? I had people in my Facebook group, my church group, sending videos. No, you need to get a hairdryer because the coronavirus can't put the hairdryer in your face and blow the hot air in your face. Right? Do you have any idea how hot the hair dryers get these days? In your face, right? Not only, and that's not all, but cover it with your hand on the back where the air comes in. Restrict the airflow, right? Because it gets even hotter that way. It gets even hotter. So you're going to start seeing the little elements inside start glowing, right? Now, I'm an engineer. I knew straight away what's going to happen. These retards are going to burn down the house, or trip the switch if they're fortunate enough to have, you know, a decent thing. It's going to cut out from overheating, or trip the switch or whatever. But how many people are going to burn down their house now? Because of, and I spent like the first 2 or 3 weeks of this just on. I'm not very popular in my church at the moment, saying this is retarded. Stop sharing this crap, because this is you're gonna hurt yourself. And I can't believe how many people require hand holding, right? And it's like, what would these people do without someone there to tell them you're gonna hurt yourself? It's like children sharing photos, fear-mongering on the thing, right? Fear-mongering on the thing. One thing people don't realize is, ladies, if you're pregnant, listen up. We will be able to tell, once the babies of this era are born, we will be able to medically trace the coronavirus stress load in the next generation, the generation that's being born now. The high levels of stress. Watch, the next generation of babies are going to have health problems because of this, for no other reason than because of the high levels of stress that are currently now existing with the mothers. You're going to start seeing compromised immune system. You're going to start seeing increased in psychological disorders in the children, increased rates of attention deficit disorder, increased rates of autism, increased rates of all kinds of problems, because of the high levels of stress that affects the child. And I tell them, you need to stop fear-mongering. Actually, someone left the group because she's such a narcissist that she couldn't handle being told that this is wrong. Sharing photos of people being buried in graves and stuff like that. I said, where did these photos come from? Do you even know whether this photo, you always know. I don't know how some people, you can tell when a photo has been photoshopped. But these people are too stupid to see that this thing has been photoshopped. You can see clearly. It's not even like it's rubbish. I said, where do you know where this photo come from? What is the source of this photo? Where did it come from? Is it actually, I said, so you're spreading fear and rubbish for nothing, making people stressed out. How many people at home by themselves, because social isolation is a form of psychological torture. Did you know this? You want to torture someone, this is part of torture methods, right? It's why they put criminals and stuff like that into isolation and stuff like that. It's a psychological torture method, right? And now you're going to put panic on top of that. What is going to be the psychological state of some people after this? People who are home, let's say they're alone and they suffer from depression and all that kind of stuff. What do you think is happening to these people? You're going to see rates of suicide are going to go up. Watch. Just for no other reason than because of the fear and the panic and the drain that this is going to have on people. The cure is worse than disease because of stupidity, ignorance. You know, I mean, and there were other people. I'm not just, there were other people in this group that shared amazing stuff, right? I've got a mate from South Africa. Is he from South Africa or either from South Africa or Zimbabwe? He shared some amazing stuff, right? But only 2 or 3 of us. The rest was just abject garbage. And if we hadn't spoken up, no one would have. No one would have. Where was the moderator? You know, and this is not the only group that does it. Many other groups. People tell me about these things. Where are the pastors? Where are the elders with better brains to talk about these things properly? Right? We don't think about the consequences, the long-term consequences of these things. People who are alone with psychological disorders and things like that. What it's going to do, the stress load, what it's going to do to the infant when the infant is born. You can go and measure in the infant the high levels of cortisol and things like that, stress hormones, even within the infant, which is going to frustrate to their development. We're killing the economy and we're killing the future generation with this imbecility. No measured response, nothing, absolutely nothing, because the government says jump and we are, oh, how high? Please save us, Mr. Government. Absolutely sick to death of this, and I just wish, and Christians should know better. Christians should know better, right? Because we've got prophecy. Whether you agree with me or not because we've got prophecy, we should know better and stop with this thing like holy handkerchiefs, right? Western Christianity is false prophet. Basically, the rubbish, the drivel, these mega churches and this crap, right? The confusion that comes out of the United States, the Christianity out of the United States, unbelievable. Not to say that, you know, I'm perfect, don't get me wrong, right? But yeah, no wonder you know, when you talk to a few like Bible Belt type of Christians, you know, I've never been to the States, but man, when you talk to some of the Bible Belt Christian types, you know, no wonder atheists are afraid of Christians, you know. Even myself, here in the UK, I talk to some Christians sometimes. I just sit there looking at them and I'm like, no wonder atheists are afraid of you. I'm afraid of your insanity and how you see things, you know, uninformed and you can see this. I mean, you know, you have a look here in the final days, right? What does the Bible say? Snitching on business owners and stuff like that. This is what happened in the communist times. This is what's going to happen in the end of days. These fearful idiots in the church are going to rat you out. Where the Bible talks about it, the brother is going to turn against brother, it's going to turn against father, it's going to turn against mother, against sister, against aunt and uncle. This is what's going to go on, because these fearful, faithless ignorants that don't bother to get themselves well established in anything. These are going to be the people that are going to, just to get, from the government, please help me, right? Oh, look at him, please take him to jail. And this is where it's going, and the coronavirus should scare you. Not because of the virus, because the virus is insignificant. It's a pathetic thing, right? 50% of there's an estimate comes out of Oxford. 50% of the people, they estimate 50% of the UK has already got it. The vast majority of people who have it don't even know it, and they will never know it. That's how it's nothing. It's a nothing virus. It's not the government does not even classify it as a high consequence disease. And the government in March 19 already declassified COVID-19 as a high consequence disease. They already knew this. They already knew this before the quarantine, before the social isolation thing started. Right? I've already heard people, even at my office where I work, saying, oh, you know, talking about this tracking stuff. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And I walked in there and I said, you guys are a bunch of retards if you think that this is a good idea. And if you think that this is going to go away, that they're going to stop tracking you once the COVID thing is, you are morons. I said, I often say to them, you stupid British, what do you think your forefathers, we commemorate the World War here every year, a moment of silence for the World War fighters fighting for freedom and stuff like that. I said, you stupid British, what do you think you're doing? What do you think your forefathers fought for? And now you say, oh, there we go, government, go ahead, track us, take away our freedom, no problem. You retards, you have forgotten the face of your fathers. You idiots. Because you're afraid. Why don't you take a hold of your testicles and do an about face on this cowardice? Start thinking for yourself. Right? Because if there are cowardly, pathetic men out there, how are they going to support their women and children? If they themselves are too cowardly and pathetic to stand up for what's right. I cannot stand pathetic, cowardly men. Cannot handle it. I've seen more than my fair share of it in my lifetime. Especially in South Africa, because South Africa is... I mean, we've all been held at gunpoint and stuff like that. And you see how some people behave. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Men are not men anymore. They've been feminized into this pathetic, quivering little soy-filled nothingness. No wonder women are so dissatisfied. I feel sorry for young women. What are they going to marry? No idea. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is my rant. I just had to get it off my chest. I'm sorry. But this thing, how much money they spend on wasting this crap. They go get homeless people off the street with the money they spent with this. Right? The amount of good they could have done rather than send this trash. This trash. It's already... You can't even go to YouTube without this thing over there, COVID. Every time you log on, right? COVID. Be afraid, right? And now this thing. How many millions? And these people... I know people because I stop sometimes inside the street. The other day, I gave a friend, a mate. He's actually become my mate. I gave him some stuff to help him boost his immune system and things like that. To help him with his ADD out of my own pocket. So I know exactly. Right? The government wasting money on this rubbish. That we already know. And unless you've got an extra chromosome and you are half a chimp, basically, you already know this. You know? Be afraid and give us your freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, just stop being stupid. This planet is going to get exactly what it deserves, honestly. But yeah, so I had to get that off my chest. I really did. And thank you for listening. And God bless you. Take it easy. Don't be silly. If you are a man, practice spiritual discipline. Bring it into your house. Spiritual disciplines. Spiritual life. Study. Be the man. Bring peace into your home. And if you can't do that, then you need to start questioning yourself. Bring peace, especially if you've got children, especially if you have a pregnant wife. Now is the time to be a man and bring peace into the home. That's your burden to bear. Right? And inform yourself. Inform yourself. Don't just be corralled. Because if you are corralled, your family's going to be corralled with you. And you're supposed to be the protector. Right? But the protectors are all gone. The protectors are all gone. They're all filled with soy and sitting at home shivering and watching celebrities online. Right? All the celebrities have piled in as well. Look at us, how we social isolating. Therefore you should too. Right? Follow the new gods. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, God bless. Cheerio.